Hi everyone. A couple of days ago I put a tip on this page about making tight mitered corners so you didn't end up with the holes that are typically in a mitered corner. Mitered corner is shown on the 10 stitch Tunisian blanket on YouTube, which I think everybody who has done a mitered corner looks at. And I've marked off these yellow lines with black markers so you can see that that's what you want to end up with, a row going up and straight, so you can see what I'm talking about. But you don't want to end up with these holes. This is what I did not like when I started my Sunny Days blanket. I ended up with a mitered corner with all these holes in it. Didn't like the look of that, so I tested a couple of things, and this is what I came up with. This stitch marker is currently in the 2 chain turn, which you'll see me do in the red in a minute. So I'm going to take that out, and I've now made my first row into my turning point. So here's where I start to make my mitered corner. Now I have 6 stitches here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, plus the outside one. So I tend to just count the bars, but you know, however you want to count it. So for your 6 rows, you're going to end, for 6 stitches, you're going to end up doing 5 rows up to make a corner. And I know a couple of people were questioning how that works, but here we go. So this is our first row. I'm just working regular tension. This is our first row of our mitered corner. Now, please forgive the angle. I'm doing my best here. I am not set up for video, so it's just my camera with my arms around it. I'm making a very, very tight stitch. This is the important part. The tightest stitch you can make, so you don't pull your hook very far through that. You make a really tight stitch in that corner. Then you just do regular tension back through your other stitches. And this is the first row of your mitered corner, and you've done a really tight stitch on the edge going up. So you do your second row. Your second row will work the same way. And I have no idea how to stop and start the video, so you're going to have to watch me struggle through doing these. But the most important thing is your tight edge. Tight, tight, tight. Get it in there. Get it barely through. And then barely through. And tight one. Then you've got regular ones to go back on. Regular tension. Now that's your second row. Now you're going to do your third row. And you've got 4 stitches to deal with on your third row. Again, another tight corner, tight edge, and then regular tension. Now it may seem painstakingly slow to do that stitch that at the end, but it's worth it to get those holes out of your nice work. And again, tight, tight. So now you come to where you're going to end up with 3 stitches on your hook. This is going to be your last row of your mitered corner. You're going to be tempted to do another row, but don't do that. Just for 6 stitches, you've done 5 rows up, tight edge, and here. So for 6 stitches, you've done. This is your last row into your chain 2. You've done 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 rows, and that's where you want to stop. And there's where you chain 2, and you'll put your stitch marker in that when you get around your corner. I always go back and put my thing. I do 2 tight stitches so they're not a big hole up at the corner. Now here's where you start your mitered corner. The first row, the first stitch you're going to pick up is actually out in the row that's not, you're not in. Not the one directly down from your hook, but the one next to it. Okay. So you do your chain, stitch into that, and then you're going to move out one, and you're going to stitch into the first one here. You're still kind of doing fairly tight ones on the edges. And then you're going to pull back 2 and pull back 2. And now you have your first stitch going down on this corner. I hope you can see that. Okay, now you've got to kind of work your work back and forth because you got to go into that sideways stitch, and then you pick up the one directly underneath that. This is what I didn't get in the video. Pick up the one directly underneath that. I didn't get this out of the 10 stitch video, so my apologies to the person who made it, but I just didn't understand it. Then you pick up the one directly next to that. So you want this one to go down here. You want this one to go down here. So you pick up this stitch. I hope you can see this. And you pull your back pass. And now you'll see that you have two stitches lined up, going up and down, just like I marked these in the black on the yellow. Okay, now you have 2 stitches sideways, which is what works for you. And then again, pick up the stitch directly underneath that stitch. I know this is slow, but please bear with me. And then the one in the next row, you pick up the next stitch. You can always pick up the 2 in the bars going up, and then you pull back. Regular tension. A little tight, but that's fine. Now you have 3 stitches going sideways, and you've got 3 rows started. Go side 3, 1, 2, 3, and you pick up the one directly under that bar for your 4th row. Then the one in directly here on the next one for your 5th row. And back pass. So now you have up and over, up and over, up and over, up and over. We're getting there. I hope this is clear to you guys. And I know, like I say, it's slow, but it is the way I needed it to be, and it wasn't on the other videos. My apologies to the creators, they're doing great, but okay, so now you have, 1, 2, 3, 4, and this one goes in here and in here, which is the first stitch of the next 2 rows. Now you have, if you're looking at your rows, you have them all lined up, and you just need to get this one here done. Okay, so we're on, now we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and to get our 6th, we go into this stitch here, directly underneath. And then you're back into your corner where the 2 chain stitches were. So you've done 2 stitches into that corner. And then pull back. And that is the end of your mitered corner. From here, you will just work down the side the same way you worked up the other side. You just go into your next stitch. However, when you look at your mitered corner, look how neat that is. There's no holes. Can't even poke holes up through my fingers the way I did the other ones. And I got to say, I'm really pleased with my mitered corners after my first couple of rounds on the sunny days when I figured that out. So once you get to that point, you're just working down your other side. So I hope this helped you in any way at all. Any questions, you can always send me a message, but I think that makes it pretty clear. You can see where all of these go up and down just the same way they should. And then you don't have to put any stitch markers and count rows and all that. If you've got 6 bars, you do 5 rows up once you get past your corner stitch. Now, a couple of people asked me about the hooks that I used. If you look closer, you'll see there's a little line on this. This is where this handle actually was on this hook when I bought it. But I found the Tunisian hooks long and clumsy to work with. So I pulled back the rubber. You can see that I pulled back the rubber off my handle, and I can actually pull it back another little bit which I did when I was making my blanket. And I made enough space on my hook to get through the whole blanket. I think there was one time I switched to a hook that had no rubber handle on it, so I could get a wider space. And I just used a regular sized 6.5 regular length hook to do that. I went through my whole blanket with this, and I think 1 or 2 rows of my last diamonds, because I did make my blanket so big that I needed more space there, and I just used one without a rubber handle. Anyway, hope all this helps you. Happy crocheting. Have a good day.